Okay. So we'll start off with some introductory questions. So you can just describe yourself and what you do
Yeah.
for work and what's your educational background.
My name is Sujata Raman. I education-wise, I have a undergraduate degree in political science and international relations, and I have my law degree, both from Michigan State University. Go Green! Um, for work, I started out doing public interest law. I worked at legal aid for a number of years, and then took a break for a couple of years when I had my kids, and then started a. My husband is a physician, so we started a medical practice, and we've been doing that for about 10 years. So I've been managing that for a number of years, and then in the last 2 to 3 years, we've kind of gotten more active in our community and involved in politics and that kind of thing. So I've been getting involved in different organizations to help with voter education and voter turnout, working on various campaigns of candidates that I feel align with with my priorities and my values. Help excuse me, help to run a local mayoral campaign 2 years ago, and then last year a county commission race, and then this past, well, just up until last week, I was a candidate myself for Novi City Council.
Um,
Perfect.
oh, okay, wait, you go.
Okay. Yeah. So that kind of answered our next question as well, which is great. It was just how are you like involved in the community of Novi? So that was perfect. Thank you so much.
Of
Um,
course.
yeah, and then our next question was, as you ran for Novi City Council, what inspired your desire, or what kind of sparked your interest for starting a green initiative? And then I guess our follow-up question for that would be, what is the goal or what did you want to achieve when you began your sustainability and environmental campaign?
Yeah, so sustainability and environmental consciousness was one of the pillars. We had four pillars to our campaign, and that was one of them. And it's super important. I think that the impetus for it was just the realization or the acknowledgement that climate change is real, number one, and it affects all of us. I think that in the last few years, especially, we've had some really intense weather, and uh, you can try to explain it away any way you want, but at the end of the day, climate change is a factor, and we need to do everything we can to minimize our impact on this planet, so that we have a planet for you guys, for my kids to enjoy and be able to live, the life that we all want. And so that was really important to us, and that is something that I think at any level, household level, city level, county level, state level, everything, federal, everyone can do their part. And so we were very intentional and very, it was one of our priorities to be very upfront about that, and to be very intentional about wanting to uh, be sustainable, not only for our campaign, but should we be elected, uh, we wanted to make sure that that was part of what we were bringing to council.
I completely agree with that. I think one of the reasons we also wanted to start this like campaign as well, and one of the reasons this topic interested us is because there's so many things that like an average person can do as well just to like make a difference. With this, it's not like there's not like something like super big you have to do. You don't have to start a whole organization, or you don't have to start a whole campaign. Even just doing small things at your house can or outside can make such a big difference, which is just the more research we do, it's just like it's also just crazy how like serious this issue is, especially in like other nations as well, which is why it's like it's important we start with the initiative right now. So it's really inspiring
Absolutely.
as well on your.
Absolutely. And I'm proud of you guys. I mean, that's wonderful. And understanding that, and every person, anything one person does is such a small thing, but when you put a lot of small things together, they become very big things. So
Yeah,
it's much more manageable that way. And I applaud you guys for taking this on.
thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you. And honestly, adding on to your point, advocating for sustainability and prevention of overexpansion, is an important factor in reducing our contribution to like air pollution. And we like kind of researched and saw that one of the most common places that particle matter is emitted is in construction sites. So, as an educated individual yourself, like how serious would you say the problem of indirect air pollution from construction sites really is?
I'm sure that it is, I don't know, I haven't researched this particular topic specifically, but I can only imagine. I mean, you think about, let's just think back to the impact on the first responders at the 9/11 site, right? I mean, that's what it was, construction material that was, when the planes hit and the buildings came down, that's what was in the air. That was what was coating everything. That's what first responders inhaled. And there's a whole fund a whole group of people that they have started a fund for to be able to pay for these medical, but because it is, and granted that was much more concentrated, but it just gives you, it gives you an idea of what it is that construction workers and all of us on a daily basis. I mean, if it's in the air, we're taking it in, and that's something that we have to be aware of and do everything we can to minimize, for sure.
Yeah. I think, yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I think like one thing like also like we didn't really realize as well until we started doing our research is like how much like pollution really is like around us. Like you don't realize like how big of a problem it really is until you like truly start like researching and seeing the numbers, and like that's when it's truly starts to like hit you like, oh, this is what like I'm like taking in every day. Like this is the kind of like air I've been around. Especially like well, even like we were doing a lot of research recently about like Delhi and the air pollution that's constantly it's very like severe this year round, especially because of the farm fires that have been there recently, and the air pollution is so serious as of now. And it's just crazy because like I think me and Pravinya both, we visited India a couple of times as well, so like it's just like crazy to think like even though we're not there for a long time, like we can't, it's like it's we can also see the difference when we compare like the US to like there as well. We can like see the difference in air quality there. So just like
Yeah.
I think as like if you're like a person living there, it must be like so common to see that you don't, it sometimes it might not even like hit you as well. Like it might seem
Yeah.
normal at some point if you haven't seen like the other, like if you haven't seen other countries where where it's like cleaner as well. I was like we were just thinking about that recently too.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right. And India is a great example. My parents were in India last year, and my mom got really sick. She got, she wound up with bronchitis or some other, not pneumonia, but I think it was bronchitis,
Yeah.
and in large part due to exactly that. She's not used to the pollution that's in the air there, and after a few weeks of breathing it in, it affected her, and she was sick, really sick for a couple weeks.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. And then coming back here, you do see the difference. So 100%, you are correct.
Okay. Pravinya, did you want to go to the next question as well?
Yeah, so kind of adding on to your point, with the health effects too. In our city of Novi, do you think this residents should be taking air pollution seriously, especially considering like the increase of road construction in just the past year? There's a lot of particles emitted, and like how do you think that would affect them?
Yeah, I think that air pollution is something that we all need to be taking seriously, and we all need to be doing whatever we can to reduce how much pollution we personally are putting out there. Um, but there are some things that are unavoidable, right? Road construction is one of them. You can't avoid it. You have to, in construction in general. But I think it's important, in our campaign, we prioritized, and we talked about the fact that we would want to be very smart and responsible about our development, whatever development we're doing. Um, and a few ways to do that is to think about, and work with developers that hold sustainability and green initiatives and environmental, causes as a priority, and knowing that they would bring that to whatever job they were doing. And so that was something that was important to us to put forth in our campaign, and hopefully have it be something that we take to the city council. But yes, I think that everyone needs to be finished. I think that in some cases, it's not the worst thing in the world. I know everyone's sick of and done with masks, but the research is clear. It protects you. I mean, it's a barrier. Those particles, while we can't see them in the air and we inhale them, they are they are big enough to be stopped by a mask. And so sometimes when you're in those situations or you're in that kind of environment, and there's some of that stuff going on, I don't think it's the worst thing in the world to be wearing a mask and protecting yourself. But that aside, I think it's important that we work to find as many opportunities as we can to not cause the problem in the first place. And there are many more smarter people than I to tell us how to accomplish that. But we should seek those out and we should heed their advice.
Right. Yeah. That's a great point. I completely agree with that as well. Yeah. Going on to so that kind of like transitions us into our next question as well. So what do you recommend the residents of our city should be doing in order to become more sustainable? And then what do you think the city as a whole should be doing in order to become more sustainable as well?
I think the city as a city government should be looking at things that we can do on a citywide basis, right? So things that we could offer, such as composting. That would be a great thing that, there are other communities that offer composting as a way to reduce what's going into landfills and things like that. And it's a benefit. It turns the food waste and those things into usable, nutrient rich soil that you can use, which I don't know about Sanvi where you are, but Pravinya, I know that our backyard, below the grass, about this far below the grass, is clay. There is no dirt. So using our food scraps and things that can be transformed into something that's nutrient rich and healthy and can help grow things, I think that would be fantastic. I think that we should be looking at, I would love it if the city would go zero emissions, right? Or at least work towards that. What is the feasibility of putting up solar panels in strategic places to be able to harness that solar power to then power city buildings and or parks and recs areas, right? Things like that. Whatever little things we can do as a city, I think making it a priority and making it something that we as a local government aspire to, I feel like will help inspire or I don't know what the word is, encourage people individually to do some of that as well.
Because like setting that pathway is like the first step into making a difference as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and making it accessible. I mean, maybe there's some incentives or some tax credits or some. I don't know the answer to all of it, but I think that it is definitely worth exploring and looking at what options there are. I definitely think we need to start with some, we need to start having some out of the box thinking. We can't kind of continue down the same path that we've been. We need some new ideas. We need some fresh perspective. We need some out of the box thinking and work towards the goal. Set the goal and work towards it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Yeah, I agree with your point as well. Kind of retouching on this topic, like, why do you think it's important to implement sustainability in our local communities' everyday lives? If you have like anything else to elaborate on it as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I think it's an overwhelming thing, right? To think about the impact of the things that we do in our way of life on the planet as a whole. I think about the hole in the ozone layer and things like that. It seems so big, right? But again, you bring it down to the local level, and everyone doing a little bit will add up to a lot, and it will make an impact. So whatever little bit that we can do, like I said, for our campaign, we made decisions like we didn't print a ton of paper, like literature and things like that. We sent out some mailers, but we were really specific in targeting. So we weren't wasting them, I mean, and at the end of the day, some of it is just, it is what it is. People see it and then they toss it in the recycle. Hopefully it's the recycling bin and not the trash. But so we were intentional about that. We were intentional about targeting it, making sure it went to the specific audience. We were, 3 campaigns in a row. I'm big on, when it comes to information or a link to the website, rather than printing out a piece of paper and handing them a thing, QR codes. We wear badges with our QR code that you want more information, here you go. So you're not doing as much paper. Being intentional about, we ordered a set amount of literature at the beginning of the campaign. We used it all the way through. We didn't throw out what we started with, and we designed it in a way that we knew that would last us the whole campaign. One of the other things that we were really pushing is, Oakland County as a whole, they approved transit last year, mass transit. And so Novi traditionally has opted out of that option. They haven't had that in the city. And the voters said, no, we want it. So now we need to work to make sure that it connects with what we have, and it is set up in a way that's going to make the most sense for Novi residents, so that that's something else that we can do. We can get around the city on a bus where it's carrying 30, 40, 50 people versus individual cars, 30, 40, 50 individual cars for each person, right? So those are the small kinds of things that we can do, and it takes some shift in mindset for sure, but it's doable. And like I said, if we set that goal, and if it comes from city government, or to say, hey, look, we would like to aspire to this for these reasons, there's no reason that we can't all make small adjustments for the greater good.
Yeah, those are some. I think the point you mentioned before about your campaign itself, doing like not printing as many posters, using the links to the website. I think that was like a really like great idea as well. I think like that just like kind of like enforces like your campaign even more. Like it just like enforces the idea as well. I think like, yeah, even like small things like this, like those kind of like small things can like make such a difference, especially when it comes to like this kind of issue of pollution and stuff. There's like so many different kinds of pollution as well. It's like everything like you do like kind of like contributes to like something. So just like reducing your consumption, or reducing like reducing how much paper you consume, or reducing how much you drive your car outside, like those all all kind of like tie into the same issue, and they're all like kind of advocating for the same issue, that kind of thing, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, 100%. And you make a good point. The like paper. I'll tell you, I have a friend, former professor of mine from graduate school, and she's a good family friend now. And we saw her a couple weeks ago, and she brought us a roll of she had cut out squares of flannel and stitched the edges and rolled it up on a paper towel roll. And she said, here you go. This is my attempt, to help you become more sustainable. She said, paper towels, they break down quickly in landfills. It doesn't take long, but they release a lot of methane gas, which is, something that we need to be conscious of. So she said, you use this for anything else, anything you would use a paper towel for, use it. So that right then and there, we switched it out. It's taking some getting used to. My kids are like, I don't want to get that dirty. I'm like, no, that's the point. But small things like that, where now we are using a lot less paper towel, which it sounds like such a small, stupid thing, but again, every little bit helps. So
yeah, I completely agree. Yeah, that's a great point. So yeah, Pravinya, did you want to move on to the next question there?
Yeah, so now we're kind of switching off. Like, I'll just state like a quick little fact.
Sure.
But like around 92% of the world's population lives in places where the air quality levels exceed like World Health Organization's expectations, which just kind of indicates how enormous this problem truly is. So when you were running for Novi City Council, how important was it for you to campaign for sustainability?
Really important, like I said, and it was important to us to as I explained, to walk the walk, not just talk the talk. There were some campaigns that I think probably sent out a mailer every week, every other week. We didn't want to do that. We were intentional about making sure that we were keeping our website updated, that was a wealth of information. We could direct people to that. It's important. It's very, very important that we all are considering not just our world, to your point, or our immediate surrounding, but the greater the greater good. So it's incredibly important. It was incredibly important in the campaign and in everyday life to be very conscious of the issue, of the bigger, problem. And like I said, whatever little bit we can each individually do to help, to do our part, we need to stop thinking of ourselves individually and start thinking of the whole.
Yeah, I think like a lot of the times too, for like a lot of people, like especially like people like of our age as well, it's like they think like, oh, like what impact will I have? Like it's if I just do one thing, like it's not that big of a deal. But it's like it is, especially like especially when it comes to this, like every small thing you do, like it will like will help in any way possible. You just have to start doing it, and eventually like those things, like stopping those kind of things becomes a habit, and then um you're making a bigger impact now. So just doing
100%.
it once or twice obviously like isn't the model. Like it's not just turning off the lights once whenever you feel like it. It's turning them off consistently, making sure you're like you're carpooling more, driving your car less, using less paper. Those kind of like small little lifestyle changes can make the biggest impact in
100% agree with you. And think of it this way, right? You're two of you, or there's three of us on this conversation. We do our part. We each talk to three other people. They each talk to three other people. I mean, it does quickly add up. And if it's just a simple thing like saying that we're going to consciously, I try as much as I can to remember to take reusable bags when I go to the grocery store, because guess what? There's no reason
right.
that I can't reuse those bags. And that's one small thing that I can do. And hopefully I'm teaching my kids so that when they are doing, when they get to a point where they're shopping on their own, that they have that
Exactly.
habit already
Yeah.
established. So,
Yeah, that's a great point. Like the information just passes down as well. That's a great point as well. Yeah. Yeah, so then moving on to our next question. So did you partake in any particular research about sustainability to further your campaign? And if so, what was your biggest takeaway from what you had learned from the research you did?
So I will be completely honest with you. I did not do a ton of research. And I say that only because I ran on a slate with two other candidates, and my co-slate mate, Dr. Matt Heinz, this is his passion. And not to say that I'm not, but he is very, this
Right.
is an area that he has worked in for a long time, or he's really invested in. And so I kind of deferred to him in
Mhm.
that way. That it's definitely a priority. It's definitely something that's important to me, but the nuts and bolts of it and the detail, that was kind of his area. So I didn't do a ton of research per se, but that being said, again, the things like thinking about trying to move to solar power for city service, city buildings and things like that, or other services that the city could provide to residents for with sustainability in mind. Those were always things that we, and if somebody, I always said, I'm not I'm not an expert on many things, frankly, but I do think it's important uh, to seek out the people that have the expertise, ask questions, understand what you're dealing with, and then heed the advice of those experts. That's why they're the experts. And so that's always been, kind of my motto. And then if I'd been elected, that's what I would advocate for, is that I would, the things that we want to do, or bring somebody in to say, hey, what could we do? What are the things, whether it's a consultant, whether it's somebody in the community. We have such a diverse community, to go out into the community and say, hey, let's do a roundtable. Let's figure something out. We want to know your ideas. What can we do at a city level to tackle this problem in our little corner of the world?
Right.
So
Yeah, that's a great point. I think like also like some a lot of the times it's just like things you see like on an everyday basis as well that can just like inspire those like huge campaigns. It doesn't always have like a lot of big things that have been started like aren't even from like a lot of research. Just like seeing things like on an everyday basis that just kind of shocks you, like those kind of things. So then it just kind of like takes you into this like new realm of like like a new like concept. So it's just
Right.
like a lot of things that like build up, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I
then
agree with oh, sorry.
you can go.
I agree with Sanvi's point. I think like also like your campaign reached a lot of people, especially through word of mouth. I think it was also important the fact that you guys didn't really use that much literature and more like did the online thing because I think now that's just more accessible for people to use. And it really just like spread the message about sustainability. And I think like I can't even like imagine how like informational that experience would have been, like especially working with someone like Dr. Heinz, and learning more about like the air pollution aspect, especially in like our local community. And you kind of already answered like our next question. It was why is it important to advocate for green initiatives in our local communities? But if you have anything else to say, that also help.
No, I think you're right. I think we pretty much covered it. Every little bit helps. Every
Mhm.
little bit takes us a step closer. So I think it's important that everyone do whatever they can.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that was it for most of our questions. I think that was like a great place to like end off as well. So yeah,
Of course.
thank you so much for your insight. This was truly
Yeah,
like such like
of
an
course.
educational experience for us as well. It was like it was so great to talk to someone who has like so much knowledge on
Oh,
this. It was amazing. So thank you so
you
much.
flatter me, but but thank you. And thanks for the opportunity. I mean, I'm like I said, I'm proud of you girls, and I think it's great that you're taking this time. I do.